Hello everyone, we're going to talk about loops. So we have two types of loops majorly, for loop and while loop. So today I'm going to talk about a for loop. The first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to create a list and then I'm going to traverse through elements in that list. Let's say a list containing just letters of alphabet. E, F. Okay, so we can say, for example, for letter in, let me call this alphabet. You can't call it anything, but let me just call it alpha. Print letter. So let's see what happens here. So for loop is going to go through every element in this list, and every element will be assigned a variable letter. Like, so for the first thing, it will see this letter A, and now letter will be equal to A. Then we are going to print letter. Sorry, it's not. We're going to print letter. Then next, we are going back to the next one, and we are going to assign letter to B, and then we are going to print B again, and so on and so forth until the last one. So let's check what happens here. Okay, so you can see A, B, C, D, E, F. So every time we go through these elements, so every time we go through the elements one by one, assigning that value to a variable called letter. So that is traversing through the elements of the list. Now let's make another list of integers. So you can see I'm using capital I because int is a keyword, so I cannot use it. So int, I'm going to say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, sorry, 7, 8, 9, 10, for instance. And then now we're going to say for num in int, this is what we're going to print. We are going to print something like int times 10. Now let's see what happens here. What happens here is that, so we're going to start with the first integer, and then we're going to multiply it by 10 and print it. Go to the second, do the same. Go to the third, do the same. So let's see what we have here. Oh, that's a lot of integers. Actually, more than I expected. So for num in int, print int. Oh, whoa. This is wrong. 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 So this is what happened here. What happened is that it was multiplying the list by 10 every time. So you get this list, you multiply, yeah, like you duplicate, not duplicate, just make 10 lists, 10 of this. So we have 1, 2, 3 up to 10, 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 10 times. Every time it goes through one of these, which is not what I wanted. What I wanted is I multiply this by 10, multiply this by 10, multiply this by 10. So that is going to be not int. We are not multiplying the whole list, but we multiply the number. So we have 10, 20, 30, 40, etc., something like that. So, so you can now notice that we can actually make a multiplication table with this kind of a thing. So let me do some formatting here. So I'm going to say so num. I'm going to use x for multiplication by 10 equals that. Okay, so what does this mean? This means, so at the first iteration, num will be assigned 1. So we are going to see 1 times 10 equals 1 times 10, which is 10. Sorry, this should not be there. This should be here. Okay, second we have 2. 2 times 10 equals 20. 3 times 10 equals that, etc., something like that, which is something that looks like a multiplication table. Okay, so let's do some counting just within this. Let's do counting. How many times is this going on? So I'm going to count, start counting from 1. So I'm going to say count equals 1. And now this is what I'm going to do here. Every time I do something, so here I do something, I'm going to print something else here, like the count. So I will be printing this and then print that is 1. Do this, print that is 2. Do this, then print 3. But if I leave it that way, it will always print 1, 1, 1, 1, 1 throughout. Let's see that. So you can see what is happening here is we have 1 times 10 equals 10, 1. So this is the count. Count is 1. Count will always be 1. But we need to do something to increase that count every time we do a loop. So we are going to increase by saying count equals to count plus 1. So what does that mean? That means here count is 1. After we do the loop here, we are going to say, okay, where should we increase it? Should we increase before we print, or should we print before we increase? Yeah, we should print before we increase, so that we have this, then the count 1, then we increase, then we do this. We have the count here as previous count plus 1, which is now 2. Do this, previous count plus 1, which is now 3, something like that. So now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc., all the way up to 10. So that is how we can do something like counting. Okay, so we are printing and then counting. This can also be written, so this can also be written as count plus equals 1. So that means the same as count equals to count plus 1. So you do the sum and you realize that we obtain the same thing. Okay. Now let's try to do something like how to apply this to do exponentiation, exponentiating, like taking a number raised to another number. So let's start with something like, let me just comment. I'm sure there's some command here, that some combination of keys that can just comment the whole thing at once, but I think it's control 1. I'm not sure. Yes, it's control 1. You can just select and then press control 1. Is it control 1? No, you just, yeah, you can comment by control 1, but it's not working for multiple lines. I don't know why. Okay, so we want, for instance, we are taking, for instance, A equals 2 and B equals 4. Okay, so we want to do A power B, which is 2 power 4, which equals to 16. So that's what we want to obtain. But we want to use a for loop to do this calculation. So what do? So to do something like this, we will need to do some initializing of results. So we want to do to multiplication 4 times. We want to do multiplication 4 times. So I'm going to introduce something for I in range. This is what I'm trying to. So we want to multiply 4 times. So range B means 0, 1, 2, 3. So for example, 0 up to B minus 1. Okay, counting integers between 0, including 0, up to B minus 1. So 0, 1, 2, dot up to B minus 1. So that's, so every time I will be assigned to 0, I will be assigned to 1, I will be assigned to 2, like after every iteration, I changes to something else. So it's like we are doing counting. So this counting will help us to multiply A 4 times. So the counting here will be done 4 times. 0, 1, 2, 3. So those are 4 times. So this I will not be used elsewhere. It's just used for the counting number of times we are doing the multiplication. And here we want to multiply something. Sorry, must tab here. Tab equals, I don't want to repeat result equals to result times. I want to say result times equals to A, so that we do multiplication directly. So result, we are going to initiate with 1. Whenever we're initiating something to do with multiplication, we initiate with 1. So what happens here is, so A is 2. Result to begin with is 1. So we are going to have the first iteration. We're going to have result is going to be result. Let me just write the whole thing to avoid confusion here. So this is what is going to happen. So the first iteration, we're going to have 2. For the second iteration, remember now the result is 2. We're going to do 2 times a, which is 2. We're going to have 4. Third iteration, result is 4. So we're going to do 4 times a, which is 8. And then the fourth iteration, we're going to have 16, which is the last thing that we need. So the last result will be 16. So now, if we do printing here, result, what will happen is that every time it's going to print, it's going to start with 2, going to do print 4, and printing 8, and then printing 16 as the last value of result. So we should print result outside of the loop so that we print the final solution here. So let's see what we have here. Oops, sorry, these are comments. Good. So here we have 16, but let's see if we print here and not here. So you notice that it's going to print at every iteration is going to print. So because that is everything that comes under tab here is inside the loop. But this final result, which is what we want, should be outside of the loop, so that we only print the result that we need, which is 16. So we can do that also for values that are entered by the user. So we can change that to ask the user to input something, and enter the base. A is the base, and the second one we're going to say enter the exponent. Exponent is the power, the exponent. Okay, so now here the user is going to input the base and the exponent, and then we're going to do the calculation and then get the result. So this is what is happening. So we need to input 2 and 10, for instance, and then we get that 2 power, that is 1024. We can also manipulate this this format, do some formatting here so that it looks nice. So we're going to say a raised to b equals result. So that looks like something that someone can understand. So let's say 3 by 6. So that 3 raised to 6 is 729. I'm not going to give another example, but you can try an example of factorial. Factorial of a number where n factorial, for example, equals to n times n minus 1 times n minus 2 times ... all the way up to times 2 times 1. So that is the factorial of a number. You can easily write a program that will calculate the factorial of any number given by the user, that is any integer. Something else I wanted to mention would be functions. Functions resulting from these loops. So I'm going to clear this except the last part. So we're going to use the last part because I want us to make it a function here. So like I said, function. So I'm going to say power, just call it power. It will take two arguments, the base and then the exponent. So this is what we're going to do. We can just carry this thing here. Sorry, this should be tabbed. This should be tabbed. And here we do return the result. Sorry. So we're going to return the result. Now, how do we apply this here? We're going to say, here, instead of writing the result here, we just say power A, B. Let's see if we get what we need for power 3. Yeah, we obtain that 4 raised to power 3 is 64. So that will be it for now. We'll next time we'll talk about dictionaries, and we will apply the loops to obtain very interesting results. Thank you.